All right, so get this.
For this deep dive, you've brought us
A Wikipedia entry.
on Black Lives Matter. Talk about a topic it's everywhere these days.
Yeah.
But you know what's really interesting about this? It's easy to know the hashtag, right?
Yeah.
But how deeply do we understand the movement
Behind it.
That's what we're here to unpack.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head.
It's a movement born out of tragedy.
Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, Eric Garner.
Right.
Names seared into our collective memory. These weren't just headlines.
They sparked a wildfire
of outrage and grief.
And from that fire, the hashtag Black Lives Matter hashtag emerged.
2013.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's wild to think that something as simple as a hashtag
could ignite a movement
of this magnitude.
And more than that.
This wasn't a top-down movement.
With a singular voice directing everything.
Okay.
The Wikipedia article calls it
decentralized.
Which, knowing your interest in social movements,
I think you'll find fascinating.
So no single leader.
Right.
How does that even work?
Yeah, so think of it like a network.
Each local chapter is like a node.
Holding its own power and influence.
Okay.
It allows for incredible adaptability.
With each chapter addressing the specific needs
of its community.
But this structure also makes it harder to define.
So it's both a strength and a challenge.
Absolutely.
On the one hand, you have this incredible grassroots power.
But on the other, it could be easier to misrepresent.
Or even harder to hold the movement accountable.
Exactly.
And that's something we can explore further.
Okay.
When we delve into some of the criticisms.
Leveled at the movement.
Makes sense.
Now when we think Black Lives Matter.
Those powerful images of protests and demonstrations, especially after George Floyd's murder.
Immediately come to mind?
Sure.
But the movement's reach
goes far beyond the streets.
Doesn't it?
Absolutely. What's fascinating is how
deeply woven Black Lives Matter has become.
Within music, film.
And even the physical landscape of our cities.
Wow.
Think about All Right by Kendrick Lamar.
It practically became an anthem at protests.
You're right.
And speaking of powerful visuals.
You can't forget Black Lives Matter Plaza.
Near the White House.
Right.
Talk about a statement.
I remember seeing pictures of that plaza.
And it really struck me.
It felt like
such a powerful symbol of change.
It really highlights
how BLM sparked a cultural reckoning.
The Wikipedia article mentions this surge.
In books, films, and TV shows after 2020.
All grappling with issues of racial injustice.
It's like Black Lives Matter.
Didn't just spark a movement.
It sparked a national conversation.
Yeah.
Speaking of conversations.
The article delves into the public perception of BLM.
And how it's shifted over time.
With some really fascinating statistics.
A bit of a roller coaster, actually.
In 2020, public support for the movement
skyrocketed after George Floyd's death.
Yeah.
Remember those Pew Research Center findings?
67% of U.S. adults
supported the movement.
Wow.
A significant jump from previous years.
And then just a year later,
it dropped to 51%.
What happened?
Why the sudden dip?
Well, there are a few contributing factors.
Public opinion tends to be fluid.
Especially around complex
and emotionally charged topics.
Okay.
Also, the research indicated that opinions on BLM
are sharply divided along racial and political lines.
Which begs the question.
Are we truly having a unified national conversation?
Or are we just retreating
into our own echo chambers talking past each other?
That's the million-dollar question.
And it highlights the deep polarization
that exists within our society.
And this is where things get even more complex, right?
We can't talk about Black Lives Matter
without addressing
the whole all lives matter counter-argument.
Right, it's a phrase
that often sparks heated debate.
Yeah.
On the surface, it seems like a message of unity.
Who could disagree with the idea
that everyone's life holds value?
I mean, logically, it makes sense.
It's true.
Exactly.
But as the Wikipedia article highlights,
and as many activists have pointed out,
all lives matter misses a crucial point.
Okay.
It's not about saying other lives don't matter.
It's about addressing the systemic racism
and disproportionate violence,
specifically targeting Black communities.
It's like saying,
my house is on fire.
And someone responds with,
well, all houses matter.
Right.
It's like, yes, but mine's the one.
That needs attention right now.
That's a perfect analogy.
And it reminds me of how Barack Obama
addressed this very issue.
Okay.
He said, and I'm paraphrasing here,
that Black Lives Matter aims to shed light
on a specific problem,
a particular vulnerability
within the Black community.
It's about saying
this issue demands focused attention right now.
Yeah, and ignoring the problem
doesn't make it go away.
Exactly.
Which
the Wikipedia article cites some alarming statistics
about the disproportionate number of Black people.
Killed by police.
Right.
It really makes you pause.
Those numbers are impossible to ignore.
And it's not just about fatal encounters either.
We need to consider the entire spectrum
Of police interaction.
Okay.
Traffic stops.
Stop and frisk policies.
Where studies reveal significant racial disparities.
It paints a stark picture
Of a system riddled with flaws.
when it comes to race. And here's where I was surprised.
Knowing your expertise on social movements
The Wikipedia entry on Black Lives Matter.
really dives into its global reach.
Okay.
It's not just an American story.
That's what I find so remarkable.
It's ignited protests and conversations.
About race and police brutality worldwide.
Wow.
From the streets of Brazil.
Demonstrations in Australia.
And even marches in Japan.
Black Lives Matter has truly become a global movement.
It's like it gave a shared language.
To a shared experience of injustice.
No matter where you are in the world.
Precisely.
And it goes beyond shared experiences.
The strategies and tactics employed by BLM,
Have inspired movements in other countries.
like the fight for Aboriginal rights in Australia,
It's a testament to the power of solidarity.
and shared purpose.
It's incredible to see
How hashtags
something so seemingly simple
can transcend borders.
and connect struggles across the globe. But speaking of hashtags,
It's not always smooth sailing in the digital world, right?
right,
The Wikipedia entry.
touched on that whole TikTok controversy.
Ah, yes.
Remember when TikTok was accused
Of shadow banning content.
related to Black Lives Matter?
Yeah.
It sparked a massive backlash.
Users noticed that posts with BLM hashtags
We're getting buried.
not showing up in search results.
Wait, hold on.
TikTok tried to explain it away.
As a technical error.
Seriously.
Then-
But the damage was done. It raised serious concerns about censorship
Algorithmic bias.
and the power dynamics at play on these platforms, whose voices are amplified.
Whose are silenced.
It's a crucial conversation for our digital age.
It goes to show
That the fight for justice
it's just happening in the streets.
or courtrooms anymore.
It's happening online, too.
Right.
In the digital spaces we inhabit every day.
Absolutely.
And speaking of unexpected places,
Where these conversations are playing out.
did you catch that bizarre claim?
About Queen Elizabeth II?
The Queen
You've got to be kidding me.
and Black Lives Matter.
It's in there.
That's wild.
A British businessman named Ken Elisa alleged
Where did you even find that?
in an interview that the Queen supported the Black Lives Matter movement.
Hold on. Seriously.
The Queen,
I mean, we're talking about...
the British monarchy here,
Right.
an institution.
With deep roots in colonialism.
It's hard to imagine that going hand in hand.
With a movement actively challenging...
Those very structures.
Right. It seems almost unthinkable.
And to be fair,
There's no official confirmation?
just this one businessman's claim
Right.
it was met with.
A healthy dose of skepticism, as you can imagine.
Understandably.
But here's the thing.
Even if it's just a rumor.
It makes you think, doesn't it?
Sure.
It challenges those preconceived notions.
We have about who supports what.
It reminds us that there are always...
Multiple sides to every story.
Right.
And sometimes
The most unexpected voices.
emerge from the most surprising places.
Exactly.
It reminds me of that other detail you pointed out.
The whole hands up, don't shoot phrase.
Yeah.
I always thought that.
Directly connected to Michael Brown's death in Ferguson.
It became a powerful rallying cry.
Symbolizing the fear and outrage.
Felt by so many.
Right.
However, later investigations revealed
That while Michael Brown was tragically killed
his hands might not have been up in surrender.
when he was shot,
Really.
it doesn't diminish the tragedy.
But it does highlight the need,
For careful examination.
even within emotionally charged
Mhm.
situations.
You're right.
It shows how easily misinformation can take hold.
Especially when it aligns with a larger narrative. It's a good reminder to always think critically.
Even when something feels true.
Or confirms what we already believe.
It's about seeking truth and understanding.
Even when it's uncomfortable.
Or challenges our worldview.
Right.
Which brings us back to Black Lives Matter as a whole.
The Wikipedia entry you shared.
Is incredibly informative.
But it's really just a starting point.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's sparked so many important conversations.
But those conversations need to continue.
It's up to each of us to
Keep learning, keep engaging,
with the movement and the issues it raises.
to keep asking ourselves.
Those tough questions about race, privilege, and justice.
Because understanding the past and present
Of Black Lives Matter.
isn't just about knowledge,
It's about action.
right?
It's about taking that knowledge.
And using it to create a more just and equitable world.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
What's the one thing you hope our listener walks away with today?
Well, we've covered a lot of ground here.
From the origins of the movement.
To its global impact.
But the most important takeaway is this.
Engaging with Black Lives Matter
is a journey, not a destination.
It requires ongoing reflection, education,
and a commitment to dismantling systemic racism.
in all its forms.
Beautifully said.
It's about moving beyond hashtags.
And building a world where Black lives matter.
Not just in theory.
But in every aspect of our society.
That's a world I think we can all get behind.
Absolutely.
And on that note,
we'll leave you with this final thought.
How can we each contribute to that world?
What role can we play
in ensuring that Black lives truly matter?
Keep those questions close.
And keep the conversation going.
That's all the time we have for today's deep dive.
Until next time, keep learning.
Keep questioning.
And keep striving for a better tomorrow.